Well, Mr. Abdurrahmane Bakhte is the Secretary General of the African Airlines Association, a trade association of airlines from the member states of the African Union, founded in Accra, Ghana in April 1968 and headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya. Mr. Bakhte is also a former CEO of Air Mali and Air Burkina. Mr. Bakhte, many thanks for your time here on Bottom Line Africa. The global aviation industry has taken a hit in the wake of the current pandemic, and Africa has not been left behind. How exposed are African airlines in the wake of this crisis?
Thank you for having me. African airlines have been in a difficult situation even before the COVID-19 for many reasons. For some challenges related to high cost of operation, high taxes, for example. With the COVID-19, the situation is even worse because due to the travel restrictions taken by many governments, African Airlines has to ground their aircraft. So today, only some cargo operations are undergoing to transport some PPEs and some essential goods in African countries. Grounding aircraft means that less revenues for African airlines. So our worry today is a lack of cash and liquidity for African airlines. Many of African airlines have less than 3 months cash. So we expect next month in June to have a lot of difficulties faced by African airlines. That is why our association made an appeal to African governments to come to support their national airlines. And also we are working with African airlines during this downtime to work on survival and also a rebound of our industry when the COVID-19 will be over.
Absolutely, and a vibrant aviation industry is critical even for Africa's economy to recover post-COVID-19. But what help then, and what measures can governments give? What support can governments give to airlines, especially those that need bailout in the wake of this pandemic?
The kind of assistance we are waiting from government is not only to put cash on airlines, it's also to give loans at preferential fees, and also to guarantee loan for African airlines, or to relieve taxes and charges on supported by African airlines.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the measures that African airlines themselves have put in place to protect passengers as well as mitigate the effect of the crisis on their business. Within the likes of South African Airlines and Ethiopian Airlines as well, deciding to focus more on cargo transportation. But are these measures sufficient?
These measures are not sufficient because cargo operations represent between 5 to 15% of revenues for airlines, and even some airlines doesn't have any cargo operations because they don't have wide-body aircraft. So the situation is very, very bad for African airlines today.
So what support then have these airlines received from key stakeholders such as the African Airlines Association?
Our mission as African Airlines Association is to create a forum of discussions and also to favorize the collaboration between African airlines. This Monday we organized a webinar with all our members to discuss the situation and to equip them in tools to survive and to rebound after this crisis.
As it stands, even before we wind up, intercontinental flights are still the bread and butter of Africa's aviation industry, making up about 51% of their business. This, of course, has taken a hit. And even post-COVID-19, considering the issues and diseases Africa is dealing with, there's a very possible threat of other countries closing their borders or cutting links with Africa for a while. What is the recovery plan, industry projections moving forward?
We expect that the recovery will start from domestic operations after regional, international and intercontinental flights. So it will take time to come back to the situation we had before the COVID-19. All expect things that by the end of this year, maybe we'll be at 70% of our activities, but it will take almost 2 years to come back to a normal situation.
Yeah, and even if, as we talk about coming back to normal, I mean, a large number of airlines have laid off. South African Airlines is on the verge of laying off. I mean, there's massive job losses from the aviation industry. What impact is this likely to have?
Yes, under our recovery plan, the workforce is very important for our airlines, because if airlines want to rebound, they need to take care of the workforce, because this workforce are skilled and have a lot of competencies. So we need to make sure that when the COVID-19 will be over, the airlines are ready to take off with a workforce on board.
All right, and finally, Mr. Bakte, could this COVID-19 pandemic perhaps be the turning point, especially for the African aviation industry? Because like we mentioned, there were many problems even pre-COVID-19, and so this problem just being compounded by this pandemic might just mean the African aviation industry might go, plunge lower post-COVID-19. What can we do to ensure the problems pre-COVID-19 do not surface afterwards?
We need to see in any crisis opportunities. African airlines were struggling, but at the same time, the potential of growth for aviation in Africa is very huge. It's supposed to double every 15 years. So we need to rethink our business models so that African airlines can be much more prepared to take their market share for this growth of African aviation business. There are a lot of projects which were launched by the African Union Commission, for example, the Single African Air Transport Market and the African Continental Free Trade Area. I hope that African states will now understand, realize that it's better to have a better African intra-trade market, and this will also help African airlines to operate more routes and to give more connectivity to our customers.
All right, many thanks. That is Mr. Abdirahmane Bakte, is the Secretary General of the African Airlines Association, as African airlines continue to take a hit in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many thanks for your time, Mr. Bakte.